Hello! Welcome to English for Shared. Here, you learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's go!
Albert Einstein, the genius who challenged time and space. On March 14, 1879, in the small city of Ulm in the Kingdom of Württemberg, Germany, a boy was born who would forever change the way we understand the universe. This baby was named Albert Einstein, the son of Hermann Einstein, a salesman and electrical engineer, and Pauline Koch, a devoted woman, a lover of music and the arts. Albert's childhood was, at first glance, ordinary, and even a bit worrying for his parents. He was slow to speak his first words. He didn't start forming complete sentences until he was around 3 years old. Some relatives thought something might be wrong with him. Little did they know that behind those calm, thoughtful eyes was a brilliant mind, curious and ready to question everything. The Einstein family was Jewish, but not practicing. Their home was warm and affectionate, but also intellectually stimulating. Hermann, his father, co-owned a small business that manufactured electrical equipment, dynamos, cables, and other devices. Pauline, his mother, adored classical music and made sure to encourage Albert to learn the violin. The sound of music, just like the sound of words he took so long to utter, would be a constant in his life. When Albert was just 1 year old, his family moved to Munich, where Hermann and his brother Jakob opened an electrical workshop. There, Albert grew up surrounded by wires, machines, and conversations about inventions. It was in this environment, among screws and gears, that his interest in understanding how things work began to blossom. One of his first defining moments came when his father gave him a pocket compass. Fascinated, young Albert would spend hours observing the magnetic needle spinning and, mysteriously, always pointing north. What was behind that invisible movement? What forces guided that tiny needle? Questions like these echoed in his young mind. He attended a Catholic primary school in Munich, where he was one of the few Jewish students. From an early age, he struggled with the rigid school system. German schools at the time were strict, almost military in discipline. Memorization was valued more than true understanding. For a boy like Albert, who wanted to grasp the why behind everything, this was stifling. Despite that, he was always an excellent student in math and science, not out of obligation, but out of passion. At home, he read books that went beyond what the school taught. At night, he would spend hours imagining what it would be like to travel at the speed of light, a thought that, years later, would lead him to revolutionize physics. The Einstein family's life changed when Hermann faced financial difficulties. The electrical workshop didn't thrive as they hoped. When Albert was 15, his parents decided to move to Italy in search of better opportunities, leaving the young man behind in Munich to finish school. Feeling abandoned and unhappy with school, Albert made a bold decision. He dropped out without a diploma. He traveled alone to Italy, crossing the border by train without telling his teachers. It was an act of rebellion, but also of courage. At the family home in Pavia, Italy, he found a more relaxed, encouraging environment. There, he spent his days reading books on philosophy, science, and listening to music with his mother. But the world required Albert to move forward. He needed a diploma to have a career. So, at 17, he took entrance exams to enroll at the Swiss Federal Polytechnic School in Zurich, one of Europe's most prestigious institutions. Although he did very well in math and physics, he scored poorly in subjects like languages and botany and was not admitted at first. He didn't give up. He completed high school in Aarau, Switzerland, where he found more liberal teachers who encouraged him to think independently. In 1896, he finally entered the Polytechnic in Zurich. There, he made friends who shared his passion for science and met a young Serbian woman named Mileva Maric. Mileva was the only woman in the mathematics and physics course. Intelligent, determined, and just as curious as he was. She quickly won his heart. A romantic and intellectual partnership was born. During his student years, Einstein was not exactly a model student in the traditional sense. He skipped some classes, preferred to study on his own, and debated ideas with friends. He was seen as irreverent, but brilliant. After graduating in 2000, he dreamed of an academic career. However, the world did not open its doors so easily. After graduating, Einstein faced unemployment. He sent letters to dozens of professors asking for a job as an assistant. He received many rejections. But luck struck when a colleague recommended him for a position at a patent office in Bern, Switzerland. So in 1902, Albert began working as a technical examiner, third class, at the Swiss Patent Office. For many, that job might have seemed monotonous. For Einstein, it was perfect. He analyzed projects from inventors dreaming up new machines. He carefully read the ideas of other creative minds, while in his spare time, scribbled calculations and theories on scraps of paper. It was there, among piles of patents, that some of the greatest scientific discoveries of the 20th century were born. During this period, his personal life also took big steps. In 1903, he married Mileva Maric. The couple had 3 children, Lieserla, Hans Albert, and Eduard. The fate of Lieserla, their first child, remains a mystery. It's believed she either died as a baby or was given up for adoption. Hans Albert became a hydraulic engineer, while Edward was a promising young man who sadly faced severe mental health challenges. Despite financial difficulties, Albert stayed focused on his research. It was in 1905, at age 25, that he lived his annus mirabilis, or miraculous year. In that single year, he published 4 scientific papers that shook the foundations of physics. Brownian motion. He explained the random motion of particles in a fluid, helping to confirm the existence of atoms, which was still debated at the time. Photoelectric effect. He demonstrated that light can behave like particles, photons. This discovery would lay the foundation for quantum physics and earn him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. Special theory of relativity. He proposed that the laws of physics are the same for all observers moving at constant speeds relative to each other. He also showed that the speed of light is constant regardless of the observer's motion. E equals mc2, equation. He revealed that energy and mass are equivalent. This simple yet profound formula showed that a small amount of mass could be converted into an enormous amount of energy, an idea that would forever change the course of science. Recognition didn't come overnight. For a few more years, Einstein continued working at the patent office, but his ideas began to circulate among influential scientists. In 1909, he got his first academic job as a professor at the University of Zurich. From there, his career took off. He went on to work at universities in Prague, Berlin, and other European cities. In 1915, he presented his general theory of relativity, an expanded version of special relativity. This new theory explained gravity not as an invisible force pulling objects together, but as the curvature of spacetime caused by the mass of objects. Imagine a bowling ball placed on a stretched-out sheet. It deforms the fabric. Likewise, a planet deforms the spacetime around it, creating what we perceive as gravity. In 1919, during a solar eclipse, British astronomers led by Arthur Eddington observed the deflection of starlight passing near the sun, exactly as Einstein had predicted. This confirmation made the physicist a worldwide celebrity. Suddenly, newspapers everywhere featured his face. The scientist with the unruly hair and dreamy gaze became a symbol of genius. Fame brought him both recognition and challenges. While celebrated as a genius, he also faced criticism and envy. Some conservative scientists rejected his ideas. Others, motivated by anti-Semitic prejudice, tried to discredit him for being Jewish. In the 1920s, Einstein traveled the world, giving lectures at universities, attending congresses, and meeting political leaders. He visited the United States, Asia, and Palestine, where he was moved to see the early Zionist project to create a homeland for Jews persecuted in Europe. His marriage to Mileva couldn't withstand the pressures of fame and long absences. They separated in 1919, and soon after, Einstein married Elsa, his first cousin on his mother's side and second cousin on his father's side, a union that drew gossip at the time. Elsa remained his companion until she died in 1936. When Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany in 1933, the situation became unbearable for Jews. Einstein, who was teaching at the University of Berlin, was already receiving threats. He decided to leave the country and move to the United States, accepting a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. In America, Einstein was welcomed as a hero. His image became even more popular, a distracted professor with wild white hair, riding a bicycle, or playing the violin. He used his fame to advocate for causes he deeply believed in, like pacifism, social justice, and dialogue between peoples. Despite being a committed pacifist, Einstein had an indirect role in creating the most destructive weapon in history. In 1939, as World War II loomed, he was convinced by colleagues like Hungarian physicist Leo Szilard to write a letter to U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt. The letter warned that Nazi Germany might be attempting to develop an atomic bomb based on his famous E=mc² equation. That letter helped launch the Manhattan Project, which developed the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. Einstein did not work directly on the project. In fact, he was never authorized to participate because of his pacifist record. When he learned of the consequences, he was deeply shaken. He spent the rest of his life advocating for nuclear disarmament and the ethical responsibility of science. In his later years, Einstein remained in Princeton, living a simple life. It was common to see him walking through the streets without socks, his hair even wilder. He spent hours in his study, trying to formulate a theory that would unite all the forces of nature, the famous unified field theory. Unfortunately, he never solved that puzzle. He continued to write letters, welcome students from all over the world, debate with colleagues, and speak out on political issues. He even turned down an offer to become president of the newly created state of Israel, saying he had no talent for practical politics. On April 17, 1955, Einstein suffered an aneurysm of the abdominal aorta. Even in the hospital, he kept working on equations and making handwritten notes. On the morning of April 18, 1955, Albert Einstein died at age 76, leaving behind a scientific and human legacy beyond compare. His brain was preserved for study, but the true Einstein mystery lies not in brain tissue, but in his boundless curiosity, imagination, and courage to question everything. To this day, generations of scientists are inspired by his theories, and more than that, by his unique way of thinking. Albert Einstein wasn't just a physicist. He was a dreamer, a humanist, a defender of peace in a century scarred by war. He proved that asking why can lead to answers that transform the world. Today, almost every student knows his equation E=mc². Satellites we use for GPS, black holes we observe in the cosmos, space travel, all of it rests on ideas that came from his mind. Einstein left us a powerful lesson. We must never stop being amazed by the universe. In his own words, imagination is more important than knowledge. For knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world.